Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. This is Steph Lee, the founder of Host Agency Reviews, and you're tuning in for the Friday 15, where every Friday you can catch me at 12 p.m. Central Time answering the industry questions you have submitted with our lovely co-hosts. And speaking of which, we have a mystery one on today because Dave Meihoefer with Travel Planners International is in Cancun with some really bad internet, and we can all relate to that when we're staying at different hotels or resorts. And so he is calling in today. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Steph, thanks for having me. And yes, this is, the trials and tribunes that we deal with here in the travel industry, and we're all over the world trying to connect, but we are all good now. Let's go.
Exactly. Well, it makes me feel like I have a really popular call-in show or something, where I have callers calling in. So this is great for my ego as well, Dave.
You see, that was my plan overall, and I'm glad it works out this way.
Thank you. And I was joking with Dave before we came on, because I told him that in our emails back and forth, I said, this is the Friday 15 before Halloween, Dave, and maybe we could dress up. Wouldn't that be fun? And he never wrote back, which was a little disappointing for me because I was envisioning us having matching outfits. But yeah, so I was joking around. He's dressed up as a dragon.
Things happen for a reason. See, what if I had all this? We both had these grandiose costumes and we were ready to go.
It would have been
maybe
so
another
great.
time.
Exactly. Well, I know you're at the conference and you need to get back to it soon, and I appreciate you taking the time. So let's dive into today's questions, because there's some really great ones. We got one from Jen, and she says, I'm still debating which host agency to choose. Do you suggest I wait until host week to decide? And Dave, I know, have you been to a host week or watched a host week yet?
So I haven't. I mean, I know a bit about it, but me personally, obviously just coming into this side of the business, I haven't attended one yet. I mean, my simple answer is why wait? If obviously there's plenty of resources at your disposal, Jen. I mean, I can get into it, Steph, but what do you think?
Well, I think it depends on Jen's timeline. So I would say there are a lot of people in our reports that we publish with the data. January, like Q1, January, February, March are really high for people signing on with host agencies. They're the busiest month of the year. So in that sense, I would say that's when a lot of people do it. And it makes it easier from a tax standpoint. Not that you'll bringing in any income within the next 2 months, but it makes it a little easier from a tax standpoint to start in the new year. But I mean, I don't think if you're ready and have found a host, I don't know if it's worth waiting for host week if you're really confident. If you're not confident, then I would say host week is a really fantastic resource for you to get to know more hosts, and in a different way than reading profiles and calling their support staff. We've had multiple people that email us after host week and say, I was going to sign up with X host, and then I watched their interview and it didn't jive with me, but I fell in love with this host agency. So it seems to give people kind of a different viewpoint of host agencies. And the other thing is, it really gets you hyped up for everything. It's a week of fire hose information. And for new advisors, it's really great for getting you inspired on what can be. But I don't think if you're ready and you found someone you like, I don't think there would be a reason to wait for host week.
And Steph, you bring up great points. The timing, my immediate answer, I'm one of those guys. I'm like a go. If you're ready to take the jump, go for it. But you're spot on regarding the timing, right? We are now coming to the end of October. We're here. Halloween is upon us. Next thing you know, you have the holidays. So for those, and if this includes, Jen, who asked the question, if you're patient, you want to do a little bit more homework, and then join host week, explore your different options. The timing, it does make sense. If we were having this call and the question came up back in February, March, April, earlier in the year, then you know what, that time, if you're looking to jump into this full time, that time is precious. So the timing that we're coming in, Q4 end of year, then maybe it would be better off just to hold off and see what host week brings to you.
Yeah. So Jen, I don't think you can go wrong. If you're ready, I say go for it. If you're not quite ready, then I say wait for host week to give you more information, a fire hose of information to kind of make your decision. But there's pros and cons to each, and I don't think you can go wrong. And Jen has a second question that follows up to this, which Jen says, do you think I should have my website set up before choosing a host? And what do you find a lot of the advisors joining TPI do, Dave?
I say it's split. If you're brand new to the business, I always suggest start getting the website set up, right? Once, you join, you're part of the host, and then obviously a consortium, there's so many things that are being thrown at you, but start to get those pieces in place when it comes to your website. Those that come in bare bones and they don't have anything set up just yet, yeah, we're going to help provide those resources and help get their business off the ground, including their website. I am a big proponent of, start working on it though, get it going, and then you can always, go on and tweak it, add, subtract, and do what you need to do to fine tune that website as you join the host.
Mm-hmm. Do you provide a website program to advisors? Because some hosts do and some don't.
We work with a third party, yes. Some choose to go with it, some go other routes, but yes,
Mm-hmm.
and most hosts do.
Mm-hmm. So Jen, that's something to consider too when you're doing your website. Is I think Dave's smart to say start on it as early as possible. I would also say, if I were doing it, and this is very analog and offline, but I would start working on it maybe with kind of sketches with what different pages you want and writing the content, because that's one of the hardest parts. I don't know if I would. You can start working on, say, if you use Wix or whatever third party that you're using, you can start adding information in there. But the one thing that's kind of a wild card is if you haven't chosen your host, some may provide a different website program than what you're using. And it's not terrible to move the information over, but that's why I say just writing it down to start getting an idea of what content you want and start working on copy editing for the different pages. Start researching other travel agencies' websites, write down what you like and what you don't like, the styles that you like, etc. When I started HAR, I did a lot of things offline just to kind of organize my thoughts and what I thought was important to have in there. Yeah, I think it's really helpful. And the one thing I would be nervous about telling you to start it before you join the host is if the host is like, we use this program and you're on a totally different one. So think about that as well, as you're deciding if you want to, like how much time you want to invest in getting that website set up.
Yep. Valid. And I was just going to add to that, Steph, regarding, you touched on this, the framework, the skeleton portion of the site, being offline, writing down, taking notes as far as what are those items, who are those partners you want to support, what does it look like, how do you want to come across, what does the look and feel of that site, what is all that going to be like, right? And then from there, without doing all the heavy lifting, the host that you end up landing with, that's where they can, if they need to turn you left a little bit or right a little bit or whatever direction that you need to go regarding your site, you'll have that guidance at that point.
Exactly. And one of the things I found really helpful when starting out, besides just physically writing down in front of me what I wanted for the different pages and what my menu bar was going to look like, which pages I wanted to highlight, was when I was doing research on design for websites, I was checking out all sorts of different websites that were directories, and I would take screenshots or copy and paste the URLs of ones I really liked. Or if I went on a website and saw a color scheme I really liked, I would take pictures of it and then record the URL so I could find that information. And it was all kind of in one folder. So when I was ready to move forward, I had all these ideas that I'd been kind of accumulating for the last couple months, and it made the process a lot easier. And when I was working with a graphic designer for the logo, it also made it easier because she had a better idea of the style that I liked.
Yep, love it. Perfect.
Yeah. And you know what, Jen, we also have an article I'm going to link to on how to get your website set up in Wix. I know they made some changes to their site recently, and so I have to be honest, I'm not sure 100% if the walkthrough is going to be completely accurate anymore, but it should give you some ideas of things to think about with your website as you're getting ready to launch it. All right, great questions from Jen. Let's see. Oh, other resource I'll link to is Host Week. It is coming up soon, folks. It is November, December. I guess it's 3 months away. But we are already starting to plan for here at Host Agency Reviews. 3,000 registrants last year, expecting to surpass that. And we would love for you to join us. It's a free week-long event. Lots of education. You get to meet a lot of hosts. You get to meet their consortia. It's really, really fun. So we'll link to that as well. And then next question is from Anonymous. All right. I am still just doing a lot of reading and trying to better understand the travel advisor landscape a bit better. One question I'm wondering if you can answer for me is the relationship between a host agency and a consortium. When I talk to a host, it sounds like they select their suppliers directly. They have a team in-house that does that. However, it also seems like their supplier has to come from the consortium, or at least they have to maintain a certain ratio of what they're selling with that supplier. So if someone wanted to be a supplier to that host, would they have to be a supplier to the consortium? I'm just trying to understand who really maintains that relationship between the supplier. Is it both, or is it more one than the other? So how do you work it over at TPI?
I tell you what, Steph, I absolutely love this question, especially coming from someone, I don't know who Anonymous is, but if Anonymous is somebody who is, just breaking into the industry, it's a very, very insightful question because of that dynamic, right? And it's funny, you speak with my friends and family, they say, well, where do you work now? And I say, well, the first thing I say is just and again, I know we turn the dial on this, but I say it's a travel agency. And then I get into, well, we're travel advisors and I work for a host, and I try to explain it to them, right? But one of those layers, and from a helicopter view, is you have your consortium, and you have your host agency account. And then within that host agency, you have all of your advisors, right? And the agency owners within that. So, as far as TPI goes, we have our, we're part of Signature. We have our Signature preferred partners and suppliers. We then also do have a number of TPI preferred suppliers that might not be Signature. And again, because we're a host, the flexibility with the advisors we work with, they can run the business however they see fit. Now, for us, right, we have a number of preferred, like I said, under TPI, and then, of course, under the consortium of Signature. These are the ones, again, being under that umbrella of Signature, we need to make sure we're doing our best to support those partners, right? There's a reason we're part of Signature, because of obviously the number of partners that they do have, the benefits that we see working with them. And they have an extensive list of preferred suppliers, which are all vetted. You go down the list, good commission, all of those benefits of a preferred supplier. So, and Steph, this somewhat relates. We have advisors sometimes come to us and they say, oh, I met Joe. He works for this amazing small ship company somewhere based out of Europe, and we've never heard of them before, but they just opened up. They have 2 yachts, you go down that rabbit hole of some random supplier that we've never heard of, but one of our advisors has heard of them. So we could see that from the question at hand here, how does it work? Here's how it goes. Every host is a bit different with how they work with their consortiums and what they do in support of these preferred suppliers under the consortium. I don't know if I'm answering this question in full, but you might speak or interview one host agency that you're interested in, and they tell you, you know what, you have to sell all of our preferreds if you want to hit this goal, or if you want to be part of this exclusive club we have, or they might just say, you have to sell all of our preferreds, or your commission is going to be capped. I mean, there's a lot of variables when it comes to the suppliers that advisors can sell. At TPI, we try to be as flexible as possible while still, primarily supporting the preferred under a signature and under TPI. But we also don't want to turn advisors away who might have that one tour operator that they love to work with that's not preferred with signature. And that's okay. We want to be as flexible as possible. But of course, look at what's the best interest and the collective interest of Consortium, ourselves, and the advisor.
That's a great question. And you did a wonderful job of describing the hierarchy that host agencies belong to a consortium, and then there's different preferred suppliers at each level. And so I'm going to link to a couple articles for people that this is a bunch of jargon to you. We have an article on preferred suppliers, which, if this is your question, it's a perfect article for it. And then one on what a consortium is and what a host agency is, and it'll talk about the differences. Great. We'll also link to Signature's profile, which is TPI's consortium, if you're looking to learn a little bit about them. But the thing I want to say about this is Dave is right that every host does it a little bit differently, but I will say there's a distinct difference between the larger hosts like TPI, and then say if you have one that is much smaller in sales, because TPI has its own leverage now. It's not consortium size, but it has a very enviable amount of annual sales. And that gives them power to say, hey, let's do this. How can we work together? And so what I say is there's the formal preferred supplier list, and usually that's passed down from the consortium. And a lot of times it's a lot of the major vendors. There's variation between consortia, but not that huge of variation. And then there's the more informal preferred supplier list. If there's people for some reason that there's a hotel in Washington, D.C. that you're always booking, or something random with a car in a small town in Egypt. There's just so many possibilities. So there's a lot of preferred suppliers, but a supplier does not have to be preferred with a consortium in order to be preferred with a host, because now that hosts have more annual sales, they're able to have these preferred supplier relationships with people outside of the consortium. So I think that answers the question. Let's see. Yeah, and in terms of Anonymous referenced this about having to maintain that certain ratio, because typically when you belong to a consortium, they want you to be booking the preferreds, because it does benefit everybody within the network when you're concentrating your buying power. And depending on, I don't know every consortium's rules and regulations for joining. So some may have stricter regulations on if there's a ratio you need to be producing for them in terms of sales with preferred suppliers. Usually what happens is they say, in order for you to join, you need to have $2 million in preferred supplier sales a year. And that'll be kind of the base that you have to go off of. So Dave, anything else you want to add to that one?
No, I think, these questions today, bring a lot of things to light in regards to, how important and if or critical it is to do your homework, do your research. You don't want to dive headfirst into any host agency and find out later that it wasn't a fit because of some really, really key factors, whether it be the consortium that they are part of, and I'm hoping those listening, if you're sitting there and Steph's providing some great resources, but sitting there saying, what is the consortium, right? I never knew what a consortium was before I came into the industry quite a while ago. But things like that, can really impact you and your business. So making sure you're checking all the boxes and doing as much homework as possible, leaning on whether it's friends that you have in the industry, host week, with that coming up, and doing all that homework to make sure you're doing a fully educated or making a fully educated decision.
Yeah, it's really, it sets you up for success the more homework you do, with the asterisks to that being, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis where you're just thinking and thinking and thinking. You got to keep moving forward incrementally. But it did remind me too that on Jen, going back to your question, we have another resource I wanted to put in for you was an article we had on choosing a host agency, which I'm sure you've run across, but I wanted to link to that as well. And then another thing that might help you is our 7-day setup program. We have a free and a paid version, so we'll link to both. But that's going to be helpful for you, because even if you haven't found your host agency yet, what you can start doing is start moving forward and understanding the process of getting your agency set up, so that when host week comes, you're at the step already of choosing your host agency, which is further down the line, because you want to kind of think about what your niche is going to be. You want to think about what your name of your agency is. You might want to buy your domain to secure it. So there's a lot of stuff you can do before you join a host agency, and that can kind of fill the next couple months for you as you do research and get things all in order for getting set up for your new agency.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, let's see. I'm going to link to Travel Planners International's profile on HAR for everyone. We'll also link to their website. You can read a bunch of reviews and tons of info on their program in there. Dave, anywhere else you want me to link to, or things you want to share about TPI?
No, I mean, for us, and this one big thing we've stressed, and we continue to work on it. In regard to that startup, we get a lot of people that are coming to the industry brand new, and this travel industry, you get those that come in thinking it's all about the Caribbean drinks and the sailing on a cruise ship and getting some of that great footage that you're going to put on your Facebook page. It's all about sunshine, rainbows, and all that good stuff. It is business, and if you're coming into it and you're looking to really dive into this travel industry, take advantage of all the great things that the industry has to offer, you got to work for it and take the time to make that decision when you're doing your homework. With TPI, for us, we pride ourselves in what we offer our advisors, and that first month, that first year, the first couple of years, especially when they're getting their feet wet. And that's a big thing. And that's a whole nother question. When you are interviewing these host agencies or when you're considering them, you find out what are they gonna do for you in those first few months, that first year. And so, but that's the big thing. I know we take great pride in it, Steph, and we hope other host agencies out there do as well.
Excellent. Well, for those of you that are Friday 15 diehards, here's who we have coming up in the future weeks. So next week is going to be Travel Edge. Following that, on November 8th is Uniglobe Travel Center. And then November 15th is Dugan's Travel. So, and then I can't believe we're already midway through November, but we've got lots of great stuff coming up for you. And if you have a question that you would like answered about the travel industry, any question is fine. We love stumpers. So you can go submit it at hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. And Dave, thank you again so much for joining us.
Yeah, Steph, thank you so much. Sorry about the connection, everybody, but maybe I saved some people. They didn't have to look at me the whole time.
Well, I just think your dragon costume would have been great, but the phone works great. We're so happy you were able to join us. And to all of you that tuned in today or are listening in, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, a great Halloween, and we will see you next Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Steph. Bye.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.